Well, hello fans and returning subscribers. You all keep the channel going. Always remember to watch, like, share, comment. And for those who have not yet done so, kindly subscribe because it helps the channel to grow. Today I'll be addressing an issue that's a bit sorrowful. It's an update on the whereabouts of Tordue Salem, Vanguard reporter, and a personal acquaintance, close acquaintance, I should say. Tordue Salem disappeared in Abuja on the 13th of October around 8 p.m. It is said that prior to his disappearance, he was, in the company of a female family member, and subsequently they went their separate ways, after which I don't think he told her where he would be going next, but considering the time of evening, the assumption would probably be, and it was during a weekday, on a weekday it would probably be that it would be assumed that he would be headed home. Well, whatever the case might be, I think I'll just read the report about what became of him. He's been found dead, by the way, so I'll take the report as brought to us by Vanguard. So the report reads, the Vanguard newspaper reporter Tordue Salem, who disappeared on October 13, 2021, without any trail of his whereabouts, was found dead on Thursday night. This is as the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, and others have expressed shock and sadness over his death. It was learned that the Federal House of Representatives correspondent was last seen around Total filling station close to the force headquarters, that's around the Garki Area 11 axis, Abuja. Salem's sudden disappearance prompted a massive search for his whereabouts. The Nigeria police said that the missing Vanguard newspaper reporter was killed by a hit-and-run driver at the Mabushi District Highway in Abuja. Parading the driver of the Toyota Camry car with registration number BWR 243BK, the Force Public Relations Officer, Frank Mba, a commissioner of police, said that intelligence response team of the police, headed by Deputy Commissioner of Police Olatunji Disu, finally traced the corpse of the reporter to the morgue of the Wuse General Hospital, and it was identified by the family. The suspect, a 29-year-old commercial driver, Itoro Clement, was paraded yesterday in Abuja. He said 3 identity cards comprising that of the National Assembly, Nigeria Union of Journalists, and Vanguard newspaper, along with 2 ATM cards, were found on his person. That is, on the corpse. Speaking on the incident, the driver told journalists that the deceased was crossing the road when he, the driver, hit him. He said the area in Mabushi was notorious for armed robbery activities. There were, however, gaps in the police narrative, as there was no mention of who picked the corpse and deposited it at Wuse Hospital. The driver stated that after hitting him, he was in a panic and reported to a police checkpoint nearby, where he was advised to report to Wuse police station, but he didn't. The late journalist was missing for 1 month before the body was found. Reacting to the development, Senate President Lawan said the concern of the National Assembly when the Senate and the House of Representatives passed separate motions over the disappearance of Salem was that he would be quickly found and reunited hale and hearty with his family and colleagues. It is therefore shocking to hear that the journalist had all the while been killed by a hit-and-run driver in an accident. This is a very unfortunate and heart-rending development, the Senate President said. Senate President Lawan also condoled with the family of Salem, the management of Vanguard newspapers, the National Assembly Press Corps, and the Nigeria Union of Journalists over this sad loss. That is not the entirety of the report, but you can look for it yourselves online and read it in full if you need to. I just wanted to get the facts straight as reported by the Vanguard, where Tordue Salem worked, because I figured they more than anybody else would have, a proper narrative of the events leading to his, or, the police version of the story. After he was found, after he was reported missing, the police was brought into the picture and they've been investigating the whole thing. Another version of the story I read also mentioned something about somebody who saw the story making the rounds online and decided to latch onto it as an opportunity to extort money from the family. But it turned out that that person was not even linked to the disappearance whatsoever, and that particular lead had to be discarded when it was found that the person is not even located in Abuja, but somewhere in the south of Nigeria. So that was one thing that was going on around this story. Another piece of information I got while sifting through everything online was how the Itoro, who is said to be the hit and run driver, was eventually, discovered by the police. Apparently, after reporting himself to the police and being told to drive himself to the police station, which he chose not to do, he drove to the place where he normally parks his car, and then the following day in the morning discovered that he found the phone, most likely Salem's phone, on his windshield. So he tossed it, and people within the park picked it and, probably started fiddling with the phone. Police were able to locate the phone, picked them up, and then they mentioned how they came about it and so on. And that was what eventually led to Itoro being arrested. Now, naturally, a large number of people have issues with, there are gaps in the story, evidently. And a number of people want to read more to the story than what is already out there in the public forum. For my part, while many people are trying to suggest that Tordue might have been murdered, he was covering politicians. Maybe he stumbled upon a sensitive piece of information that he shouldn't have had. That's plausible. Delegiwa came to a sorry end as a result of a piece of information that was said to be in his possession that some people didn't like. So it's not, that was definitely not an impossible scenario. It was possible. But then again, for my part, by the time I heard of Tordue's disappearance, he had been gone for a few days. And for me, that already left a very bad taste in my mouth. But there are certain things you don't say. So, of course, I did not verbalize such thoughts because it would come off as if you don't mean the family well or you don't want this person to be found. But the sad fact remains that in many instances of a person disappearing and things like that, the more time it takes without any communication from abductors or kidnappers, the lower the chances of finding that person alive. This isn't just me using guesswork. I happen to have an interest in crime and investigation. I watch a lot of those things. And usually, if no information, nothing is found in the first 48 hours, it's usually a very bad sign. In many instances, such people are not found alive. So I already had a very bad feeling by the time I heard of his disappearance because it was already a few days afterwards. Does the story Itoro tell sound plausible? It sounds plausible to me. He happened to knock somebody over and was honorable enough to report himself to the police. He did the right thing in the first instance. He tried to overcome his fear. Most people don't want to have any issues with the police or the justice system in Nigeria. That's a fact. Most people, this happened at night, would have chosen to just run away quietly. But he did the first right thing. He went and reported to the matter at a nearby police checkpoint. I don't understand how the police work in Nigeria, but I would have thought that what would have made the most sense would be for at least one of those police officers to follow him, go with him to the police station they said the matter needed to be reported to. That's one option. If they're not meant to leave their station, when they're at a checkpoint, if they're not meant to leave the spot, they could have detained him, impounded the vehicle, and then sent word out to whoever would come and pick him up with the vehicle. I think the vehicle should have been taken in as evidence. So that's another option. Or they could have kept him with them and then closed together and taken him to the proper place where the matter needed to have been reported. They could also have followed him to the spot, whichever police, whether the ones at the checkpoint, at the station, wherever. They could have followed him to the site of the incident to retrieve the person that had been struck. Just in case, in the off chance he's still alive, or even if he's not alive, can we identify the corpse? Can we get across to any family member and let them know this is what has happened? Well, that apparently didn't happen either. But somehow the corpse found its way to Wuse General Hospital. Who brought the corpse to Wuse General Hospital? Certainly there must be a process for depositing corpses. Isn't there some way of registering or entering the fact that this corpse was brought in by such and such a person at such and such a time, the nature of the relationship between the person who brought the corpse and the dead person? I think it's fair to assume that would be a basic procedure. Now, how come if the person who deposited the corpse did not bother looking for any items of identification? Let's assume that maybe it was a good Samaritan that didn't want to leave a corpse lying out in the road and chose to bring it in. So, they didn't go the extra mile. The morgue attendants or the mortuary attendants, whatever they're called, none of them took it upon themselves to check. Because if for all of that ID to still have been on his person, that means that the corpse came in clothed. Nobody bothered to go through the pockets and check. In the process of preparing the corpse for preservation, don't they take the garments off? What? It's sad that Salem had to die in such circumstances. My heart goes out to the family, to his ex-wife, the child, his sisters, his siblings. But I honestly, forgive me, I honestly don't think that he was done away with. I believe it were a story, that it was a hit, it was an accident. I believe his story. I also believe that he did take initial steps toward doing the right thing, but when he noticed that the police were not, he decided, I guess fear set in, and he decided self-preservation. He decided to just pretend and go quietly into the night. What I don't understand is between the authorities, that's the police and the hospital, how come it was not possible to identify this corpse, despite the fact that on the news, on social media, everywhere, there was all this ruckus around the disappearance of Tordue Salem? How come nothing was done to identify a corpse that came in within the period that... The reason I believe the story is because of the anyhowness that happens in Nigeria. Things are done anyhow. When one or two people come in and try to institute some order, some process, such people are labeled wicked. So if you ever go to any government establishment and you find the one or two people who are there and want people to come to work at the time they're supposed to come to work, leave when they're supposed to leave for work, go on break at the recommended, such people are always labeled wicked. And since nobody wants to carry the tag of being the evil person, with time, people begin to let things go. So that whatever due process ought to have been followed at the hospital, because somebody is trying hard not to be labeled a bad person, the fact that a corpse, an unidentified corpse came in and the proper thing has not been done, will be overlooked. I find the story completely plausible. Then again, it could well be. But if this man had deposited the corpse in the hospital, he would have said so. After all, he's already admitted to hitting the man. Is it to now admit that after I struck him and I noticed he was dead, I decided to go and deposit his corpse at the mortuary? I think he would have mentioned that too. So I think maybe some good Samaritans saw the corpse and decided to do the right thing, but didn't want to get further involved. So my question still remains, why did the police and the hospital authorities not do the right thing? The way things are in Nigeria, I can bet anything that if that driver had not allowed fear to set in at some point and had decided to follow all the right processes and steps and everything, and the family had been contacted, they'd probably have told him to, even if we take you to court and you get locked up and everything, our son is not coming back, go in peace. At least you have admitted that it was an accident. In Nigeria, that's how many of these things go. Most times. Especially when the family know that if they are able to ascertain that it's an accident, most Nigerian families will not want to follow it up in court or with the police. I'm not holding forth for the Salem family. I don't know how they would have liked to handle it. I'm just talking generally how the average Nigerian functions or operates. So there are quite a number of people, coming up with conspiracy theories, especially online, and so on. For my part, I really don't think Salem was murdered. I think if somebody had chosen to do away with him, they would have done away with him properly. That's like gone further to discard the corpse in such a way that he will not easily be traced or located. It could have been buried or done away with. I mean, people have disappeared in Nigeria permanently. You don't see their corpse anywhere. So, but for the fact that Salem's corpse was deposited in the mortuary, I think on that same day, I really don't think it was intentional foul play. Just by sitting down and analyzing the facts that are available to the public so far, I don't think it was intentionally done away with. So I decided to do this analysis because of how sad it is, the decay, the level of decay in the systems we have. The level of decay is so bad. There's no structure. There's no adherence to anything. Look at the building that came down in Lagos and took how many lives with it. There was a threshold for how high that building should have been. I came to understand that the owner of the building, who sadly also died when the building came down, decided to add so many more stories, and nothing happened. There was nobody to come around and say, no, you can't do this. Regulations say you must not go beyond this level. It's also for your safety, and this, that, and the other. Even if somebody tried doing it, chances are very good that somebody else would go around and subvert the process. May Tordue Salem's soul rest in peace. What worries me is that chances are good that something like this can happen again. Because I honestly do not believe that any steps will be taken to redress the obvious gaps in the Wuse General Hospital system or style of doing things, nor in the police style of how shabbily they handle the whole thing. It's done, it's done. The poor man is gone. There will be another victim. It will be another day. And again, we'll move on and continue living our jaga jaga lifestyle. It is what it is. That's how we are. That's how we are. That's what we're comfortable with. And that's why Nigeria is where Nigeria has not been able to rise above where we are. May Salem's soul rest in peace.